Hello, colleagues. Thank you so much for being here with us today. So, just to give you a brief on what the Global Youth Declaration is and how we went about in drafting this document, the Global Youth Declaration, like all of you must know right now, is the outcome document of the Global Youth Environment Assembly. Throughout all of the sessions that we conducted in these 2 days, we've dealt with various themes, some of which are reflected in our declaration. This declaration is a condensation of all of our expectations, demands, and our commitments. This declaration has 5 sections, and because it's a bit longer than we expected it to be, we also have an executive summary that details out all of our demands. The executive summary will be dealt more in detail by Given, but I'll give you a brief overview of how this declaration document is now presently structured. The first section is the preamble, which basically talks about what this declaration is, what we seek to do or achieve to do from giving or sharing this declaration with the world. This second section is policy problems, which basically encompasses all problems that we think are important enough to be addressed by UNEP and its member states. Section 3 talks about policy solutions, which basically details out principles, basic principles that we feel should be kept in mind by UNEP and member states every time they draft any of their policies. Section 4 talks about our commitments as youth, our commitments as individuals, and our commitments as the children in youth major group. And Section 5 talks about our demands and our requests, more specifically from UNEP and the member states, in order to be able to fulfill our commitments and our objectives as a constituency. So, this draft declaration that we have today was drafted through several rounds of consultations that was held by the policy coordination group of the Children in Youth Major Group. Our first round of consultations was through the way of a jam board, where we've had over 100 participants who came and gave their inputs about what they want reflected in the draft declaration. Our second and third round of consultations was developed based on a draft that was made by several people of the constituency. Uh, Before I hand over to Given, I would like to take this moment to thank everybody who contributed to the draft. Majorly, everybody present in this room who'd ever given any sort of suggestion to the draft. Second, all of the GSC members of the CYMG who taken their time to give specialized inputs to the draft declaration. And two people in specific, Grayson and Elio, without which the draft would not be what it is today. That's it from my side. I would like to hand over to Given.
Thank you. Could we get another round of applause for Aishwarya and Sharon, please? So I'm giving you a 3-line summary that I want you to take away, and I want the high-level panelists to take away as well. The first point that we make in the declaration is institutionalize the principle of intergenerational equity. What that means is the Youth Environment Assembly this year has been a success thanks to the work of many, many colleagues from UNEP and beyond. What we want to do is to make sure that next UNAM is that we're not starting from scratch, rather building on the processes, procedures, and the efforts that went into making this year's assembly happen. Second is to recommend the member states, UNEP and UNAM, develop systemic policy solutions informed by the best available scientific evidence. The triple planetary environmental crises are interconnected, and this means that we need systemic, holistic solutions rather than taking a siloed approach to tackling them one by one like a band-aid. The scientific evidence refers to science policy panels like the IPCC, IPBES, and many others, and this body of evidence is what should be guiding our policy decisions and deliberations going forward. The third is to recommend that UNEP, UNEA, and member states commit to environmental multilateralism. This is important for 2 reasons. Caring for the environment is a very, very basic right and a necessity. And multilateralism is the best or the least worst way of global governance. And as we head into OECPR next Monday, I call upon all of you, member states, and the distinguished representatives here to keep these 3 principles in mind as they embark on deliberations and to ensure that they keep the future in their sights at all times. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gubin, for the insight, and thank you so much once again for Aishwarya and Sharon for coordinating the efforts for this very important piece of work for us as CYMG. And of course, the Global Declaration on the Environment is to be shared with member states to ensure that they know what we have been discussing and what are our main demands. And now I'm going to move to something very important. And we are going to move to our high-level panel discussion on youth and environmental multilateralism. I would love to introduce our speakers. We have with us Mr. Antonio Miguel Luis, a Deputy Permanent Representative of Portugal. We have with us again Mr. Siham Morabit, Deputy Permanent Representative of Morocco. Uh, I know that we have a representative from the Kenyan Environmental Ministry. If so, please can you join us on the stage? And we have our global focal point, Zuhair Kurshik, and our moderator for this panel is going to be Gyobin Huang. So, Gyobin, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Omnia. And thank you, of course, to Miguel and Zihan for joining us on this panel. I guess, so the theme of this panel discussion, which will be a very short one, is about youth and environmental multilateralism. Sneak peek of the side event that we'll have on the 1st of March at the end of UNEA, which is being co-hosted with the government of Portugal. Thank you, Miguel. And I guess it's a wrap up of the Youth Assembly, as well as a preview of what is to come in the 2 weeks ahead. To start off, could I just ask my wonderful colleague Zuhair to give us a quick summary of the Youth Assembly over the past day and a half?
Okay, thank you, Gubin. Yes, it has been an emotional journey. I would say that in certain period of time, we are not, even confirmed that we are going to have the second version of the Global Youth Environment Assembly in person that we started back in 2022. Luckily, last time in Norway was the presidency, and we also had the Stockholm Plus 50. And we got a lot of support from the presidency, NCM, the Sweden, who was the host, one of the co-hosts, one of the hosts of the Stockholm Plus 50 international meeting. We could easily organize the first version in person, the Global Youth Environment Assembly. This time it was a very big challenge, but the support that we got from UNEP and the colleagues from Civil Society Unit, Governance Affairs Office, and other units, it gave us a sense that, yes, this is one UNEP. This is not different teams. We didn't feel like even CYMG and UNEP colleagues are from different teams. We felt like we are under one team. The fun fact is that the colleagues under Civil Society Unit, they provided us the surveys voluntarily. I mean, we have seen the UNEP colleagues providing secretariat surveys to different other meetings. But for Global Youth Environment Assembly, they did it voluntarily. And I would say the better than any other meetings. So a big round of applause for them. Also, it's a pleasure that we got a lot of support from different member states. I obviously should acknowledge the support that we got from the government of France, government of Sweden. We also got financial support from the European Union delegation. We also got financial support from the Global Environment Facility, CONRAD, one of the German political associations, the Office of the Chief Scientist, and different Global Waste Management Outlook team, Global Waste Initiative, and many other UNEP teams. Not just that, we also got a lot of support from Miguel, the DPR of Portugal, moral support, and obviously we are thankful to Portugal and other member states who contributed to UNIA budget for the travel support for the major groups and stakeholders. And this is how they are actually taking the multilateralism forward, because it's completely voluntary, and they kept showing their passion and the motivation to engage with the members, with the major groups and stakeholders. Again, the Global Youth Environment Assembly is not a one-off event. It has connection with a lot of other small, big meetings, consultations, virtual roundtables. So the process actually started right after the previous previous Global Youth Environment Assembly. We started preparing a roadmap because we felt like nothing should happen in a siloed approach. Rather, we should connect all the environmental governance processes together, and we have to find out the common link between all the processes. That's why I prepared a roadmap where we tried to follow all the UNEP negotiations. For our constituency, I can confirm that even the smaller meetings, perhaps where it's not a global one, maybe it's a regional one or thematic one, we actually, treat every negotiation meeting, discussion, gathering equally, because these processes has huge impact on the life of young people, because decisions are made, or perhaps not, if not the decisions are made, the priorities are set, or the scene are set for further decision making. We engaged through the regional ministerial forums. We organized 2 regional youth environment forums. I want to thank my colleague Vikrant and other colleagues from the Asia Pacific team, and also from the LAC team, our Alejandro, Mario, Joshua, excellent colleagues who have put forward a lot of voluntary capacity to organize the regional environmental forums and come out with the regional youth environment manifesto. And those were referenced in the regional ministerial forums many times. So we got a lot of motivation from the member states as well in the regional environmental forums, ministerial forums. Then obviously I also should denote our engagement in different other policy processes. For instance, SPP, WEG SPP process and its meetings, INC process with other youth constituencies, NVS consultation, and obviously noteworthy is that the regular CPR meeting. In the last 2 years, we didn't miss a single CPR meeting. That is the unique, I think, consistency that the CYMG has. Thanks to all the Kenyan colleagues. Alphonse, can I request you to raise your hand? We call him our permanent representative. We call him our permanent representative to UNEP. And we have Sharon and Faith, Clive, and many other Kenyan youths who have been attending the CPR meetings and providing inputs on behalf of the broader CYMG. And all those meetings, all those engagements actually set the scene for this Global Youth Environment Assembly. We took the consideration of the outcomes, all those meetings. Not just that, we also invited our sister constituencies from different other policy processes. For instance, constituencies engaging in the climate convention, biodiversity, chemicals, and a lot of other processes to provide inputs in the formulation of this Global Youth Declaration, to make sure that we are also ensuring complementarity with the theme of this UNIA 6, which is very broad, multilateral action for the triple environmental planetary crisis. So far, maybe a logistical information, we could support 32 international youths, more than 100 Kenyan youths with financial resources to participate in the Global Youth Environment Assembly and rest of the UNIA package. And I hope that our member states will keep supporting like this. And in the opening ceremony of the Global Youth Environment Assembly, we heard from our different supporters and well-wishers that they want this Global Youth Environment Assembly to be institutionalized or formalized within UNEP and UNIA. And yes, this time perhaps we couldn't talk about, we couldn't move ahead with the youth resolution that we are expecting, since long, because I think UNIA is here to make critical decisions on the youth. That UNIA, after its formalization, didn't make any such resolution or decision on youth. But even UNEP actually did a lot of work before the formalization of UNIA. Following the decisions are made under the UNEP Governing Council. I hope that this UNIA will set the scene for the youth resolution for the next one. And I look forward to engage with member states, stakeholders, everyone, each of you in the room and out there who are watching us online meaningfully in the next couple of years, maybe a long term. Thank you, all of you, for being here, supporting us in different manners. And obviously, lastly, I want to thank UNEP for all their support. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Suhair. So we have the 3 distinguished panelists here with us, and I'll ask you to briefly give an overview of where you're from, how you've been supporting youth in your respective capacities. First of all, we have James Thornger, the youth focal point at the Ministry of Environment in Kenya. Could you just share some of your experiences or the experiences of your ministry in engaging youth in environmental conservation and sustainable development?
Yes, thank you. As you've said, I'm Donjo James from Ministry of Environment. I'm a senior climate change officer. At the same time, you're the focal point for the ministry on matters of environment and climate change. So ministry since, and most of you are aware, during the development of any policy within the government, there is what we call consultation. And initially we have been working with the youth, but we came to realize there was no meaningful engagement of youth. And for first time we said, no, anytime we are having any consultation, we don't want to merge youth with other sectors. We want youth as a sector on itself. And we decided now to do a pilot when we were doing our NCCAP 3. And the first thing we did, we mapped the youth. We requested them to share the information we are working from, the organization. And after that, we invited some of them and we did consultations for all 47 counties. And we did them in bits. So that was the first thing. So within the ministry, my work is to ensure the youth actions are being mainstreamed within the government. The second thing after that one, we support youth on capacity building and training. And if you heard yesterday, the PS said we are in the process of developing what we call youth engagement, youth and children engagement framework. And this now will be the best thing that we'll be using because we are changing now from policy because we have been advocating for so long. And now we want now to go for actions. And this is now we want to bring now all the youth, not like those who have the advantage, but the rest of the youth. On the training for us, we are concentrating on the locals, and that is in the youth on the counties. And we have a framework that we are working also with the COG, the Council of Government and Governor, to ensure matters of the youth, they are at hand. And for those who understand on the FLOCA program, where we push to say for every ward representative, we must have a sitting for the youth. Because if we have the youth at the council of the apex, so we needed also the voice of the youth. So the ministry is working so close with the youth. And also, you know about the 15 billion tree initiative growing, the youth they are leading. So for us, we are facilitating everything for the youth and you are giving them platform. And anytime they come to the ministry, for those who visit the ministry, they should get the support they deserve. So the ministry is pushing and also resource mobilizing for both government, state and non-state actors. And that is where we support all the youth. And also we have resource mobilized during SES, the ministry resource mobilized for more than 60 youth to attend the SES. So we are incorporating youth in all of our actions because we are not saying the future belongs to the youth. We are saying the decision that is being made today are to youth to implement them after maybe 2 to 3 years. You know, youth is not a career, it's just a phase. So it means it's going to elapse now, then you start making the action. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Madam Inga Anderson, Executive Director of UNEP, with a big hand. Thank you. The next person I'll call on is Miguel Lewis, DPR of Portugal. He has been a champion of not just youth, but civil society broadly within the Major Group Facilitating Committee, and he has had numerous consultations with us to understand how better member states could support civil society. And I'd just like to invite him to discuss why civil society is important to him, to the EU and its member states, and what he thinks are the key steps that civil society engagement modalities should take in the weeks, months, and years to come.
Thank you, Ewan, and good afternoon to all. And first, Ewan, please don't put me on the place of representing the EU and its member states. They are upstairs defining their position now. But nevertheless, and starting by the EU position on the engagement of the stakeholders, besides the meeting that is already being scheduled, both with the major groups and stakeholders, but also directly with the children and youth major group. I think it was very important during this process, particularly with this group, the engagement that we had. Thanks to Alphonse and Sharon, we were able to receive your comments way ahead of this OECPR during the subcommittees. And I can assure you that when you look to the comments that the EU is going to make and the proposals that we are going to make now during the negotiation of the resolutions, you will see some of the proposals that you made already reflected there. Of course, not all of them are there, and I think the major groups, and in particular children and youth, have for us the valuable role that you have to bring us. And when I say you, I include a little bit myself with my 28 years old, but you have to bring us the solutions. When we come from our capitals, the truth is that our instructions are very rigid, and this engagement that you have been doing throughout the process that has to start on a national level and then go up to the regional and global level is fundamental for us to be able to represent you the best. The last thing that I would say about the importance of having youth and civil society in general, you said in your intro that it's true, multilateralism needs some changes. Is what we have, is how you put it, the less worth that we have it. But the truth is that it needs a change. Portugal has been defending this in New York. We have been defending this everywhere. And that will only be possible if the civil society brings something different. It's important that in general, you understand that you are our ambition raisers. You are not another member state, because member states have been doing this with more or less difficulty, but the results that we have in terms of environmental multilateralism, it would be worse if it was not here, but maybe if we had some other way of doing it for the last 50 years, we would have been on a better position. And I know that Madam Executive Director talks about this regarding the localization of where we have our discussions all around the globe, and we are not concentrated. This is one of the examples that member states sometimes don't take the better decisions. And what we need right now from the youth in particularly is something different. We need new solutions. Member states have been doing this for 50 years. See where we are right now. So please don't behave yourselves like member states, behave yourself like youth, and bring us the solutions and push us to take the solutions on board and have the changes that we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. Next up, we have Mrs. Siham Morabit, the DPR of Morocco. Morocco is, of course, holds the presidency of the UN Environment Assembly. And last July, we had the opportunity to have the major groups and stakeholders meeting in Rabat, Morocco, kindly hosted by the Mohammed VI Foundation for the Environment. And we had the opportunity to interact with Her Excellency Dr. Leila Badani, President of UNEO as well. Mrs. Morabit, please.
Thank you very much for introducing me. I'm very delighted to meet you all and see all the efforts that you've been putting to make of the Global Youth Environment Assembly an effective platform where all your voices can be heard and your advocacy work be also recognized at the UN and at the universal level. I've been watching your work for the past couple of years. I've been searching a little bit, and I saw how wonderful organized your work is. You tried to organize yourself in a way that you've been basically engaging in every environmental matters that we are discussing here at UNEP, at the level of the CPR subcommittee meetings. We've been hearing you engaging with us, asking questions, and also making very good propositions. I actually, I was just thinking about when I was a student, we didn't have such a platform actually to be able to engage with the international forums and with member states. So now I'm very, very happy to see that there has been so many efforts that were put there to be able to have you all working and engaging with us as member states in UNEA. And so I also seen your program of work, and I saw that you have organized technical sessions to discuss the different draft resolutions that you are going to start negotiating starting from tomorrow. So it's going to be a full week ahead of us. And I am sure you will be also following this work. So I can encourage you to continue engaging and also to understand the different perspectives that are going to be brought to the table from the different member states and region. I, of course, heard about the declaration that the Global Youth Environment Assembly will be adopting today, and I thank the colleague who have introduced it. And as the presidency of UNEA 6, I can tell you that this is certainly going to be an outcome that member states will have to consider and to see. So I cannot wait to see the content of this declaration. And I would like to thank you for your active engagement and continued support to the UNEA 6 process. I do remember last year, in 2022, when President of UNEA 6, Her Excellency, Honorable Minister Leila Ben Ali, had been invited, and she actually, when she has been appointed and when she sat at the podium during the special session of UNEP at 50, when we had celebrated the 50th anniversary of UNEP, she was very enthusiastic, and she actually met with some of you and with all the other major groups, and where they engaged her and asked her several questions, including her approach about how she's going to lead UNEA. So 2 years after, here we go. And I know that between 2022 and 2024 now, she also had many opportunities to engage with you, be it in Morocco or in New York or in Nairobi. So she will be more than happy. Again, I was told to just convey this message that if you want to meet with her, she will be more than happy to engage with you all. So I think I can stop here now, this as introductory remarks, and we are looking forward to the discussions of this panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have definitely been very enthusiastic, especially for the member states that have received the first drafts of the declaration, and they're willing to add some inputs on their negotiations starting from tomorrow. So I would love now to invite Zuhair and Gubin to take a picture with Madam Edie. So please, to present you the Global Youth Declaration on the Environment. So can you please give some claps? Thank you so much. Now I would love to invite Mr. Antonio, all the panelists for a picture to join them. Another round. Yeah, with all the panelists. Thank you so much once again. So for now, We're coming to the closing, and I would love to invite Madame Edie to give her closing remarks. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I bring you greetings from Addis, where I just arrived. I just landed because the heads of state of Africa are meeting in the Heads of State Summit. And I'll hold it for you. And I can tell you this, that one of the big topics on their agenda is indeed environment. And this is a very good thing. And so I was very happy to be invited. But I'm also very happy to be invited to this gathering. It has a slightly different age profile than the heads of state of the continent, but it has the same energy and commitment. And I think that I want to give a big, big thank you to all of you and to the organizers and to the funders, because this is the first time that we've had a Youth Environment Assembly here in Yunnan at UNEP headquarters, organized by youth, for youth, with youth. And we are really privileged that you've done this and very privileged to receive the declaration. Can you give yourselves a round of applause? So the thing is, God willing, one day you will be old, but right now you're young. And I want you to know that some of us have been on those barricades for decades, okay? And I hope that you will stay with this fire in the belly that you have today, because it is that fire in the belly. It is that not giving up. It is that knowing that you are right. It is that understanding the science. It is that concentration of the targets. It is bringing other to the fore. That is what change is about. And yes, sometimes we can get a little despondent because it's going in the wrong way. Does that mean we should crawl into a cave? I would hope not. I think that that means we get even stronger. I think that that means we get even more determined. And I think that that means that we get even more mobilized. So thank you. So I am very happy that you are here. This is a battle for our existence. It has been a battle for our existence as long as my life has been lived. And I stand before you well beyond the average age in the room here. But the point is, do not think that this is something we are planting on your shoulders. I disagree with that. Yes, this generation and the past and the past and the past has not done well. And the day you hit my age, there will be things you will regret and things you didn't manage to do, but that should not be that which stops you. That should be that which energizes you. And that is what I ask for. You are the future. We are yesterday's news. And that is the reality here. We have to understand that half of the world's population is under 30 years old. You represent much of that. And yet the average world leader is 62. And so that's just the name of the game. One day you will be 62 and hopefully you will be a world leader and hopefully you will be that person that is that change that you want to see. Do not give up, and step into that activism. The activism you have here today, the activism that you have in your communities, your mosques, your churches, your synagogues, your places of community and prayer, and your activities, wherever you go, your universities and schools, stay with it. Be open-minded, listen to the science, be inclusive, be diverse, get your strength from each other and from your inner steel. That's the way you will make change in this world. That's how it works. And when you look back and you look at great leaders and you see people who have been inspirational, they can be old, they can be young, but one thing they were true to themselves. They were the authentic themselves. They were not pretending to be something else for the newspaper, for the media. They were who they were. And the beliefs that they held and the theories that they put forward was based on what they felt truly, deeply in their hearts, in their souls, and in their brains. That is what I ask of you. You're here, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, and I'm quoting my boss, the Secretary General, who says, "Power is not given, it is Thank you. It is taken. So you are here, please take it, grab the microphone. Don't wait for it to be given to you. Stand up, not rudely and dismissively, but stand up on science, stand up on facts, stand up on knowledge, stand up on your conscience, on your commitment, and yes, on your imagination and innovation. But stand up and be heard and get engaged and push hard. Because it's not going to be easy, because there are interests and politics and comfort and just the pleasure of continuing as we were. And change can be scary for some and unsettling and maybe move economics in a way that people hadn't quite thought about. Always being mindful of who is it that might be left behind and hold that and be sure not to forget, but stand up and push. We at UNEP will continue to try to create as much space as we can for you and for the voices, because you are that change of tomorrow. We do not want to, and I don't think it's fair to say that you are the hope. Good gracious, that's a big burden to put on your shoulders. But you are tomorrow's leaders. You are tomorrow's next generation. And it is you who now has to step up and lead the world, because as I said, some of us are really yesterday's news, but you have decades ahead of you. So use them and use them wisely. Here at UNEP, we're also trying to invite and find smart ways of really getting that talent into our own cadres. You may know that we ran this recruitment campaign for the Young Talent Pipeline. And I have to say, we got thousands, literally thousands and thousands of applicants. Then we now have 12 young, amazing people from a diverse background and we want more of that. We are running another one this year, because this one was last year. And so we're doing that really so that we can have this strength inside our house as well as outside our house. And so I'm really, really grateful that you are here inside UNEA, that you are making your voice heard. I'm really grateful for the Global Youth Declaration. I'm grateful that you didn't hold back. Please don't, because that's not very helpful to anyone. As I said, you've got to be true to yourselves. And I'm grateful for this assembly. As I said, it is a first, but it's a real milestone for youth engagement, meaningful youth engagement, stepping into environmental governance. When I was 17, the big debate in my country, Denmark, was whether was nuclear power. And a few years ago, we had our 40th high school reunion, and I attended it, and I had completely blown out of my mind. But two of my then young girlfriends reminded me, or female from young, yeah, we were girls, reminded me that I had gotten them to draw these big posters. At that time, I lived in a small village, and we had gotten all riled up about this nuclear power situation. And we stood on the little Times Square in the snow, the little square, literally, this is a village of 10,000 people. As people were going into the supermarket, we were asking them, do you know about nuclear power? Do you know how dangerous it is? This was a young person's activism, and maybe my first awakening around environment. Now, many, many moons since, I remain and I retain the same fire in the belly. That fire that we have to do right by planet Earth, that whatever it is that we do, we base it on science, and maybe not on a child's imaginations, but we base it on science, and we understand what science dictates to us, and therefore what justice must look like, what policies must look like, what transparency must look like, and what inclusion must look like. That is a way of activism. So I ask of you, as you leave from here 2 weeks from now, and as the gavel will go down, I will not have the opportunity to address you. So I ask this of you, whatever happens in UNEA, you may not get all the language that you hoped for. I hope you do. But please do not get downhearted. Make that your strength. The defeats are as good as the victories, because the defeats should galvanize you to get even more involved. I ask you also, wherever you are, in whichever country you are, to stay engaged, as I said, in your communities, in your universities, in your places of worship, wherever you are, stay engaged and deal with those and hold those principles dear. The principles of the Charter of the United Nations, the principle of full engagement, the principle of voice, the principle of inclusion, and use that in your political life. I don't tell you how to vote, obviously, but I do tell you to bring environment with you when you do vote. Don't just think about your wallet, think about the future as well, as you're doing in this hall, so that when you do vote or when you do influence politically, do that with a mindset that is not just next year, but the next 10 years and the next 20 years. Because one of the defeats that we have is short-termism. So I ask you to think short-term, medium-term, and long-term. And you, who are young people, must think long-term. So to all, I want to thank you for your continued commitment and engagement. I want to thank you for the declaration, and I celebrate you. I celebrate what you have done, and I stand humble before you and say deeply thanks.
Thank you so much, Madam Edie, for those very inspirational remarks. And this is a signal for all of us. Madam Edie started by being a young activist in her little village. So all of us, one day, we will be global leaders taking care of our planet. So it's our duty and responsibility to take care of what's yet to come. And of course, globally, IAE is a milestone, and taking place at Yunnan is a big milestone, but there is a huge team behind this. So now I would love to invite Zuhair to give his closing remarks for this Global Youth Environmental Assembly. Please, big claps for Zuhair.
Thank you, Omnia. Madam Executive Director, you always looked, we always wait to listen from you, learn from you. And whenever you deliver a speech, we literally listen carefully and learn from you. This is always a pleasure to, hear you in this kind of youth setup. Dear colleagues, we are at the closing of the Global Youth Environment Assembly. And I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all the member states who supported us, who extended their support for the Global Youth Environment Assembly. I want to take this opportunity to thank the host country, Kenya, and the presidency, Morocco, for their continuous support and guidance. I also want to thank our supporters, member states, the government of Sweden and the government of France for their financial contribution for the organization of the Global Youth Environment Assembly. I also want to thank Global Environment Facility, Conrad, and Office of the Chief Scientist for their contribution for the Global Youth Environment Assembly. Let's not also discount the contribution made by our colleagues at United Nations Environment Program, the amazing civil society unit, and the Governance Affairs Office. One round of applause for them. Yes, it's the closing, and it's not actually the closing because it's a new beginning for pushing meaningful youth engagement in environmental multilateralism. And we look forward to engage with UNEP and member states in the future. Let me take the opportunity to also remind you that from this Global Youth Environment Assembly, we made two big commitments. One, we are going to launch Ocean Science and Governance Youth Network for making sure that young people are giving the same attention to the regional seas conventions and the implementation of the action plans. We're also going to launch an expert advisory group for the children and youth major group, bringing together young people from all the science policy interfaces that is co-managed by UNEP. We also look forward to deliver the outcomes and then build on the outcomes of the Global Youth and Women Assembly in the local and the national context. And it's my pleasure to declare that we are going to organize local youth and women dialogues after UNIA to make sure that the UNIA resolutions, young people are engaged in the implementation of the UNIA resolutions as well. So in the closing, I want to say that the name Yinger is a name of motivation, the name of passion, and I want to see Yinger in all of you. Thank you, and now I declare the closing of the Global Youth and Women Assembly. Thank you all.
Yeah, this, no, please, stay. Alphonse, go. Quick. Now, I would like to invite everybody, the same as yesterday, to outside to the stairs to take the group picture. And yesterday, in a record time, we just organized that picture, and right now we would. So